Hey everybody, I'm Elektra Yao, immigration attorney and entertainment attorney. I'm so excited to be with you on Friday. We have just completed the first week of Women's History Month, and I have a treat for all of you. We're going to be talking to three amazing women who are leaders in their career, leaders in their family life, and we're going to talk about their experiences as attorneys and any advice they can give to you so that you can hopefully one day become an attorney as well. So I go live on Facebook and on TikTok, so you guys already know so much about me. So I'm going to introduce you guys to Annette Chody.
Hi, I'm an attorney of 20 years, and I worked for the federal government for the U.S. Department of Labor, and that was enough of that. And I started working for really large digital marketing agencies. I loved it, and now I own LawQuill, which is a digital marketing agency that focuses on content creation, which is like law blogs, emails, things like that, for small and solo law firms.
That's awesome. Tell us also about Clubhouse. I know that you're super active on Clubhouse. Where can we find you on Clubhouse? What's your handle?
It's just my name, Annette Chody.
Awesome. Myra, tell us about what you do. You have a unique background and career compared to all of us in private practice. Tell us about what you do.
So I'm a public defender. I represent people who are unable to afford legal representation when they're being accused of crimes by the government. And so my job is to step in and to provide very good representation for people who otherwise couldn't afford private counsel and to combat government attorneys who are prosecutors in their cases.
Is there a notable case that you'd like to talk to us about, or is there anything that you'd like to mention to us about being a public defender?
I really love being a public defender because it's a different skill set when you have someone walk through the door that you did not invite to be there, and then you have clients who you really didn't choose, who you still have to be able to pick up the ball, represent them. So you end up dealing with people from really all different backgrounds, different types of experiences, different types of cases. That, I mean, they run the gamut, literally every single type of criminal case you could probably imagine. And so I love what I do because it forces me to function on so many different levels, to be present for my clients and to do really good work for them. And so I love what I do. I'm happy to expand on it more if you want.
And they're lucky to have you. We'll talk a little bit more about your career later on. I want to hear from Linnette. Linnette, tell us about what you do, and if you have any notable cases or case wins that you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, so I'm Linnette Clark, and I am an immigration attorney, and I've been practicing immigration law for over 20 years. And I am bilingual, Spanish and English. I am the daughter of immigrants who immigrated here from Cuba. So I actually learned Spanish before English. Clark is my married last name, so it throws people off. But I love what I do. I love representing immigrants. I focused my practice on the Latino community and helping them navigate the system and getting their green cards and citizenships. And I foresee doing this for a very long time to come.
That's awesome. So Myra, I'm going to pick on you first because it's such a different area of law. I have no experience with criminal law or public defender. So can you tell me how and why you got into criminal defense, or why you wanted to be a public defender?
So this is where having mentors really come in. And if you're when you graduate law school, if you already know what path you want to be on, then that's perfect. You know exactly what kind of mentors you should be choosing. My story was one where I really found myself interested in so many different areas that I had a difficult time narrowing it. One of my mentors who had the biggest impact on me, Judge Teshi, she's incredible. That was when I was living in Florida, happened to be a judge who presided over criminal cases. And so I got to watch people in the courtroom doing their things and interaction and the energy, and I kind of just got hooked. I really enjoyed it. And so that's what led me into it. And I've been into it now for several years. And that's how I stumbled into it. What I have found since I've been in it is that it's not like Law and Order. It's not like television. The real life situations are completely different. I mean, this the level of professionalism you really do have to bring to the table, and the difficult conversations you have to have with clients has made it like I said before, you really do have to function on multiple different levels. It's made it so that I've had to really come to the table as a holistic person and not just a sharp attorney. And that's something that I really love about my work. And I'm sure that's something that you all find in your work as well, is the ability to be able to relate to your clients and to be able to work with what their needs are, despite whatever ideas you may think they want. You have to be able to listen to what they actually want going forward.
Yeah, and you bring up really great points about mentors. Has anyone had a mentor, or does anybody mentor any young aspiring attorneys or young women who want to be attorneys? Do any of you mentor?
I love mentoring.
I feel that when I entered immigration law, I entered as a law clerk in law school, and I went to a small immigration law practice, and the female attorney there, she was the strong immigration attorney, and I feel like she took me under her wings and showed me everything that I learned and put into practice throughout these years practicing, as well as marketing. I mean, she was trailblazing back then with radio and news, and she showed me the art of marketing back then when I first started my practice. I've been doing this for a long time. It wasn't Facebook and TikTok. It was radio. So she really mentored me in that, and I am grateful eternally. And I still am in contact with her.
Are you still in contact with your mentor, Myra?
I am. And I try keeping in contact with the people who I've mentored throughout time as well. But all of my previous mentors, I don't know anyone who's gone to where they are completely on their own. Someone has given them advice or has opened up a door for them. So I'm always very thankful for the people who came before me, and at least, if nothing else, modeled to me how to go about functioning in this space. So yeah, I definitely keep in touch with her.
Annette, do you have a mentor? Did you mentor anyone?
I didn't have a mentor. I started out with the federal government as an intern, and then I had originally sort of been groomed because my graduate degree was in theater and film, and frankly, trial work seemed like where I was going to go, and I was on moot court and all of the things, and I had friends who went out into that space before me, and I personally was getting a little bit of heartburn realizing the kinds of cases that I may have to take, and I'm frankly too emotional for it. Like, I could never do what Myra does. I'm so in awe of it, frankly, because I do have a difficult time separating that. And so the internship then lasted, then became a job, and it lasted 20 years. So I didn't have that. But then when I transitioned to digital marketing, I do feel like I had a bit of a different set of mentors, not in the sense of like legal mentors, but I'm old. So I'm starting this career. I started this career a few years ago, and I didn't have a decade to marinate in things. So I made sure to hook my wagon to people, business entrepreneurs that were very successful, that I admired, that I wanted to emulate, and got a lot of advice from them. So I would say that those were my mentors, much more so than for law, for legal.
I actually mentored someone my first year of law school. I went to the same law school as Myra, and at the time, it was 2009, it was considered the whitest state in the nation, and there weren't many diverse kids in our class. So I got involved with a public school in one of the Portland neighborhoods, and every Friday, without fault, I would go to her house. I'm going to just, walk around the block with her and take her out for coffee, because I think that it was very important to show her that she could become an attorney if that's what she wanted to do. I mean, she was just in so much awe that that was a possibility for her. So I actually mentored her for that first year of law school. And I did keep in touch with her, but then she ended up graduating and going to college, and we lost touch. But now at the city bar in New York before COVID, I would mentor immigration attorneys. And it is my lifelong goal and duty and responsibility to mentor young minority women who want to become attorneys. I feel like in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of discussion about mentorship and sponsorship, especially in big law firms for women and women of color, just because the rate or the percentage of women of color partners in big law is something at 0.5%. So very, very, very low. So I'm always shocked about the number of diverse attorneys here in New York State. And I feel as a business law firm owner that I have to change that. And I can change that one intern at a time, one mentee at a time, and one hire at a time. So I think that I'm glad that we've all had positive mentorship experiences and that we're continuing to give that back to our legal communities. So Annette, I know that you mentioned that it was an internship that turned into 25 years, but how did you go from being an attorney to wanting to be a digital marketer?
Yeah, so it's a funny story. I remember the first day I looked up what SEO stood for because I legitimately had no idea. I knew that I was very unhappy in my job. It was like the beige walls and just a cubicle was just crushing me and my spirit, but I didn't know what I could do. And I knew at my age, I didn't really want to start. I mean, you can absolutely start your own law firm, but the truth of the matter is, as we all know, law school does not teach you to actually practice law. And so I would have had to start with a mentor and start learning whatever type of law. I mean, I was in ERISA law, so I mean, I guess I could have done that, but still, it's the entire practice of law. And I had a friend who had said that she knew of attorneys who were, or even legal, whatever, that were doing this on the side. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so she said, you can just do this and see if you like it, and you can help me out. So I started writing, and I made sure I put it through the ethics thing because I'm a total rule follower. And so they said I could do it. And so I would write these law blog articles for law firms. And at first I just thought, oh, well, maybe I'll just do it. And then I don't know what it was. I think it was because I'd been out of school for so long and I love learning and I love academics. It's my jam. I literally took so many classes and so many courses on digital marketing and SEO and keyword and all the things. And it was like a game to me. I was like, this is awesome. This is so much fun. And I'm recently remarried in the last few years, and my husband is amazing. And he was like, just jump, just do this. And I was like, well, I don't know. I've been in the government for 20 years. I'm not exactly a risk taker here. And he's like, just do it. You're going to be fine. And I felt like if you've ever seen Indiana Jones and he puts his hand on his heart, and he just takes that leap of faith step. That's where I was. And I was writing for these digital law, very large digital marketing agencies and doing well. But then I realized that they were taking $15,000, $20,000 a month from law firms to do their digital marketing. And I thought, what about the little guys? What about the small and solo law firms that need this stuff and can't afford it? And the long story short is I really made it my mission. My entire mission is to demystify SEO and give every tool to a law firm to do it themselves if they want to do it. And I do it all for free. I have a ton of blogs and a podcast now and everything that I do for free. I mean, of course, also you can pay me to do it. And I just love it. I just absolutely love it. I love writing. So
what are the courses that you took? Did you take like online courses like Coursera? Or...
I did. I took a lot of it was boots on the ground, right? Okay. Because I was working for these large digital marketing agencies and they were just training me in a way that like an academic course can't. So that really was mentorship, like at level 10, really instantly out of the gate. And then I just took a lot of like SEO courses online. I took a lot of, it was all online courses that I took, as it would be for digital marketing.
I would say it makes sense. You're a digital marketer.
Right. And so it was just something that I found I loved. I'm just, I'm a fast writer. I can write 15, 20,000 words a day. Now I have a team of writers as well, but I loved it. I just love what I do right now. I just do. I really do. I love helping small and solo law firms succeed. Most of them become my friends. So,
and it shines. You're super passionate about what you do. And I think that's half the part of developing a professional relationship with somebody, making sure that it's pleasant, because there's nothing worse than working with somebody, whether it's an attorney or a digital marketer, that you just dread calling or dread emailing. It just makes it so the work is subpar because the relationship is subpar. So your passion totally shows, and I'm sure that you've helped a lot of small and solo firms achieve their digital marketing goals, especially now and during COVID. You must be booked solid.
Yeah, it's, I think that what COVID is horrible. Okay. So, I mean, I would not have ever wished this on us as a world. I will say that I think it just accelerated what was already happening, which is that in order to succeed as a smaller solo law firm, you really need to have an online presence and increase your digital footprint. And I just think that COVID, accelerated that exponentially.
And that's interesting because, Linnette, I know that your marketing has evolved because you've been in practice for so many years. You started off with radio ads, and now you're doing digital marketing. Is there any are there pros and cons, or are there differences that you see? Would you see that, the marketing that was done in the past is better or worse than the marketing that's being done now? Or do you feel like you can reach more people?
It evolved definitely through social media. We can reach more people because through radio, it would be centered. I'm in the Los Angeles area, so it was Southern California where the radio station satellite reached. And here I can reach people across the world with Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. So it's definitely changed. It's evolved. And I started with radio, and I grew my law firm back in 2000 and to be very successful. And then I downsized because I had kids, and I chose to put more time into raising my kids. And my law firm went more of a referral basis, and it was a successful law firm as a referral basis. And then COVID hit, and then I was like, well, what do we do now? And I had started a Facebook page and an Instagram page probably about a year or two before COVID hit, but I wasn't consistent. I would do it when I had time or when I felt like it. And then I consistently started doing it in April, and my business has grown, and it's flourishing, and I have my referrals that I've continued to have over 20 years, but now I also have my Facebook and my Instagram consultations that have turned into clients. And had it not been for COVID, I still probably would have just been doing it when I had time. And now I made it a priority, and it does pay off. And I think, like Annette said, any solo or small law firm, this is what we have to do.
Yeah, and I think that your experience echoes a lot of small firms and solo law firms' experiences. But none of us four would be here if we didn't have strong examples of women in our life, whether it's being a digital marketer like Annette, or a public defender, or running a successful practice. Do any of you have examples or shout outs that you would like to give to important women or women lawyers who've helped shape your career? I know we touched on this in the beginning, but I think it's important to pay homage to the people who've helped us become the people who we are.
Sorry. No, I actually was going to say shout out to you, Elektra. I talk about you a lot to other people who I know and other students who I've mentored when I want to provide an example of someone who I think is extraordinarily dynamic, very versatile and adaptable, and highly successful in any definition that you want to throw on what success is. So you're actually one of the people who I use often. Many people who you don't even know, who are close to me in my personal life, have actually heard of you. And I think that speaks highly of you, as just not just as a woman, as a professional woman, but also as a professional woman attorney. So in addition to Judge Teshi, who I had mentioned before, and some of the other attorneys who have just, my predecessors who have come before me, I find that many of my colleagues, whether they're in my field or if they're doing immigration law or other types of law that I don't really know anything about, I'm humbled to learn about, I still find inspiration just in hearing stories like Linnette, Annette, obviously Elektra, and knowing that all of us have one thing in common, and that is just our ability to be resilient and to adapt to our circumstances, whether it's our life circumstances and finding what really gives us joy, which is what Annette was just describing, or whether we're really having to adapt to the world circumstances like Linnette was just explaining with COVID and adapting our practice with that. So I find inspiration from people who have come before me, but also people who are still practicing right along with me and are just doing it. They're just doing their thing and they're doing it really well.
That is the most beautiful thing somebody has said to me, because it really shows that even though we're distant and after law school, our careers went in different states and in different parts of the world, that we are still able to maintain this connection, and that I'm still able to make a difference in your life, just like you've been able to make a difference in my life. And I think this is why I wanted to do this roundtable with you and with all these other women, because it's so important to have this support, and not in a lackadaisical or superficial way, but sometimes you have to put your money where your mouth is, right? And you have to do the work, not only in your practice and with your families, but also with your community. A leadership position is an extremely humbling and important position. And unfortunately, a lot of people do not take it as seriously as I do. So thank you so much, Myra, for recognizing the work that I've done and that I hope to continue to do in my career and in my life.
It's an honor to be able to watch it. I'm excited for you and all the things you've already done and all the things you're going to continue doing.
Thank you. Annette, you were going to say something.
I was.
Mentors.
I don't have a lawyer as an example, but I do have a woman. My mom, I'm first generation here, immigrant. And I'm Polish.
Where's your mom from?
Poland. So I have dual citizenship with Poland. And my mom literally came to this country with a suitcase, like one suitcase. She came to this country visiting some friends. It was during the times that the Russians were occupying Poland. Whatever, that's a whole nother subject. Anyway, and she grew up during the war, obviously. And when she came here, the long story short was that she worked and then she got another job. The immigration laws were very different then. And she was here legally the whole time. So, but eventually she married my dad, and she got a job working for American Multi-Cinema, which is AMC Theaters. And they told her very bluntly, because my mom said, well, I want to advance here. I have a master's degree back from Poland. And they said, well, you can't because you talk funny and nobody can, you don't sound like the rest of us. And by the way, you're a woman. And so she said, okay, I'll take that note. And the long story short is that she ended up being the head internal auditor of all of American Multi-Cinema with the president as her boss. So she was right there with the president. And so she really just never took, it never even crossed her mind that she wouldn't be able to accomplish something. So that was a huge inspiration in my life, for sure.
Annette, Linnette?
Well, for lawyers, it's the immigration attorney that gave me my first law clerk job. Her name is Gloria Curiel. She is a well-known immigration attorney here in the Los Angeles area. And she took me under her wings and she taught me everything I started learning with immigration law. Actually, the day after I got sworn in for the bar, I had to do my first immigration deportation hearing. And back then, it was 1996, it was still deportation, it wasn't removal. And it was a suspension of deportation case, family of 5. So she just said, nope, you have your bar license, you are going into court, you prepared this case, you can do it. So at the time, I'm sure I didn't appreciate that, but now I look back on it and I'm happy that she pushed me. And I believe it made it so that I could continue to push myself and do things that maybe I probably thought, well, I don't know if I can do that. Well, she just really showed me the way, and she would not take no for an answer when it came to any case. She would go to officer supervisors, and she really continues to be a mentor in the immigration field for me. And like Annette, my mom, I mean, she came here from Cuba when she was 18 years old, and had to learn a new language, leave her life back in Cuba and start here. And, you know, her and my dad raised 3 kids, 2 lawyers, and, you know, she continues to be a mentor for me for how to continue to raise my own kids. And I look up to her every day. So, yeah.
I'm going to have to jump on the mom bandwagon too. My mom, apart from her being an immigrant, but probably I say this to my team all the time. My mom is the person who has instilled that confidence and that fearlessness and that risk-taking inside me that I feel boiling inside me every single day. And she did it very simply by, I mean, I grew up very, very poor, and I went to like a very rich, wealthy school where we were bullied for being poor. And, you know, every day my mom would tell us that, you know, we're the best family, and you are the best family because of your achievements and your accomplishments. And from a very young age, I studied musical theater and opera. And I actually didn't even want to go to university. I wanted to pursue photography in Europe. And my mom was like, okay, well, why don't you enter into this national photography contest? If you win, you're going to go to college. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to win. And I actually ended up winning. And that's why I had to go to college. And I wanted to continue with my MFA. And my mom was like, you know what, Elektra, you could have actually more control over your creative work if you become a producer. So I actually ended up going to college to become to law school to become a producer. But then I got interested in other areas of law, and my interest diverted and changed. So even though I'm no longer telling stories with my films and my photographs and with musical theater, I tell stories every single day through the cases and the petitions that I work on. I'm no longer the protagonist. I'm not the actor anymore, but I'm lifting up these voices of these actors and singers and dancers and models so that they can continue to tell their stories. I just tell my stories with a different framework, with the law. So I have to thank my mom for that really, really strong sense of confidence that I really hope every little girl is taught. Because these are very hard lessons to learn when you're an adult. But when you're taught that when you're a little kid, it just makes doing things on your own and risk-taking so much easier. And you don't even think twice about it. I always joke about when I started my firm, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I had just left one of the oldest immigration firms in New York, and I just did it. And I did it, and to my surprise, clients followed me. My clients followed me. So, you know, be confident. So in the words of Lucia Gallo, my mom, be confident, but have the achievements and work hard for those achievements to back it up. And I'm a New Yorker, so I'm always like, you got to hustle, you got to put in the work, and you've got to put in the time. So I only have to thank my mom for those really, really hard lessons that I had to learn at a young age. So speaking of important lessons, what are top 3 things you would want to teach a female associate or a female business owner or a woman in the professional world? So Myra, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, kind of dovetailing off of what everyone says about their beautiful stories with their moms. My mom recently got her PhD in social work.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so one of the things she always taught me was you are who you are, and your value came without any validation from the outside world, if that makes any sense. And so that would be one of the lessons that I really hold on to. And I agree with you that there are some things that are really hard to pick up on as an adult, not impossible, but more difficult. But especially for younger associates or for law students or for children, I highly recommend the idea of getting comfortable with your value apart from an accolade. In other words, you didn't suddenly become amazing because you got a prize. You were already amazing. And that kind of allows you to take your value back, your power back, so that when you have a rough day, you can jump back, you can be resilient because you know your own worth was never diminished. it was just a hard day, and they come that way sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have an amazing day, you can also put it in perspective, right? You don't go up and down as a person based off of the actions of another person being able to recognize you or not recognizing you. So, and especially as a woman in an area that's not necessarily woman dominated, it's not necessarily a female friendly sport, if you want to put it that way, it's really helpful if you can go in geared up with your own self-esteem and your own sense of self and your own sense of power, so that when you're in front of a judge and maybe they're not really siding with you, or if you're in front of another attorney and you're having to negotiate some things and it's a little bit choppy there, you can still know that no matter what happens, you are putting your absolute best forward, which is what's only really fair for not just yourself, but of course your client. But in addition to that, you can go home at the end of the day and know that you're still worthy of all the good that's in the world. And it's not coming from a place of entitlement. It's just coming from a place of true security, so that you don't go flailing up and down with the whims or with the praise or non-praise of another person. So I really recommend that people going into the legal career have a solid sense of self, if they're able to, if they're at an age where that's where they are in their development. And if not, they can at least begin the path of really becoming comfortable with the idea that maybe they're doing just fine. And maybe you're actually okay. And maybe this is just part of the journey, and just take hold in your experience and to try to love it, even when it's not always as fun as you would imagine it would be. And the days that are sweet are going to be even sweeter for you.
I can totally see the multidimensionality of being a lawyer that you were talking about earlier in our panel come out, because these are true words of wisdom to for anybody actually in real life, because how we feel about ourselves a lot of the time is so dependent on other people. And I know for attorneys on our cases, like on the case outcome, attorneys, including myself, we beat ourselves up for losing a case, or, second guessing ourselves. And that layer of self-awareness that you're talking about, I'm sure you provide that with your clients, because it was just so spot on, especially now during COVID, for people who might not be where they want to be in their careers, or doing the performances that they want to do, or at the level they want to be at with their firm or with the partners that they're working for. I think it's really important to have this self-awareness and self-love.
Right.
Annette, I saw you nodding.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's so important. I get that from my faith, which has grown as I'm older, right? But I think that when you have that sort of anchor where your value, and especially I think in terms of, even though I'm in digital marketing, and I know the value of, Instagram and all of those things, I think when your worth starts to come from how many likes and shares you have, it's problematic. So I think that what Myra was saying was excellent. My own personal piece of advice that I would give, though, is for young people, or for people who have been an attorney for 20 years, wherever you're at on that spectrum, is you're never locked in, right? Like, don't be scared at the age of your early 20s, whatever it is, to go and do personal injury law, or do, be it, a prosecute, whatever you want to do. Because here's the thing, you can change anytime you want. You can. I am proof of that. I was mid-40s when I completely changed my career. I'm not talking about going into a different area of law. Like, I completely changed my entire career, and I'm so much happier. And, everything, emotionally, financially, everything has been better because of it. So my advice would be, don't freak out. Don't feel like the pressure that whatever decisions you make, that you can't shift lanes or shift gears or just make a whole different choice later. It's going to be fine. Like, really, it will be okay. So, while I think it's good to have a plan, right, and say, well, I like immigration law, I think I'm going to go into this. If after a few years you're like, you know what, I don't like immigration law, I don't want to do this anymore, like, you can do something else. So I think that I wish I had known that sooner.
Linnette?
I would say surround yourself with like-minded people and also people who will push you. When you're young, and also be true to yourself, because not every lawyer wants to work the 200-hour work week and work at a big law firm. And be true to what you want, and you don't need to mold into what other people's perception of an attorney is and a successful attorney is. I go back to my career. I feel like I'm successful. I know I'm successful. And if you look at my career, it's been what I've wanted it to be. And I think I knew that from a very young age. When I went to law school, I still wanted to have a family and be a very big role in the raising of my family. So I made it a choice to go to a specific law school, to go to a specific firm to work, because I knew these were my personal choices. So I would say, really look deep into yourself and know what your goals are for your life. And like Annette said, it could change. You know, you might start off wanting to work at that big law firm and work 200 hours a week, and then 10 years into say, you know what, that's not for me, and then change to a completely different career. But just be true to yourself and surround yourself with like-minded people that are going to support your decisions and also tell you when maybe they're not the right decisions for you.
If I could give advice is, now that I run my own firm and I look back at my behavior when I was an associate, I would just encourage all women to have an entrepreneurial spirit, because you never know what is going to happen in your career when you're going to have to either be forced to, or because you want to, you know, start your own firm. A friend of mine who was a 20-year associate at a New York firm, the firm that I used to work for, one of the oldest immigration firms in New York, was let go. I mean, that person needed to figure out how to create her own firm. So when I look back at myself and I was an associate, and, you know, I always talk about how I used to live in my office. I was working for a Wall Street firm at one point. I used to live in my office. I'd get into the office at 7:30 and leave at 11:30 at night. I was always the first one and the last one to leave, always taking the hard cases. I wasn't thinking of myself as a potential, you know, future lawyer business owner or future law firm owner. I was thinking of myself as an associate, bringing in money for the partners. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. But I just want, you know, female lawyers to know that maybe we are not groomed for entrepreneurship, but we should definitely have that spirit and that open-mindedness to have that possibility in our careers. Because male associates, and I've seen it in my careers, and I've worked both in Europe and in the US, are groomed for that entrepreneurial mindset and for that partner track. And women are kind of treated as if, oh, you know, Elektra will get it done, or Elektra will do this. You know, they kind of begin to associate you with that dependable lawyer who will get stuff done. And maybe when it's time to go out with a client, you're not going to be the first person that they think about. Maybe it's going to be another attorney that they think about. So I would just encourage women, or specifically women, to have more of an entrepreneurial spirit and to understand that law is a business, and that, you know, you want to be a great lawyer. But if you ever want to be a business owner and run your own firm, you've got to understand the basics of business. And if you don't have clients, you can't have a great business. So that's my piece of advice. These are really hard lessons to learn if you don't have a mentor. But there are lots of great books out there by great lawyers. John Fisher wrote the book about law firm systems, the E-Myth book for attorneys. So there are lots of resources out there that you can just read as an associate. You don't need to start your own firm and then start reading these books. And utilizing the power of social media to connect with like-minded individuals. I think that a lot of the times when we have that support, just like Linnette was mentioning, it makes it a little bit more easy to sound out your ideas, right? To sound out your thoughts and to have that bouncing board with somebody. So find, you know, have that entrepreneurial spirit, but, you know, the part 2 of the homework is, you know, have that spirit, but actually put in the work. Find your mentors, find like-minded women, start to join the groups, read the literature, inform yourself so that you have a basis for that successful spirit. So that's just, you know, my 2 cents. But what I wanted to really talk about, hopefully we have enough time today, was the term women lawyer or female lawyer. How do you guys feel about that? A lot of the times I'm called a woman lawyer or a female lawyer, and I don't feel that. I feel like I'm just a lawyer. Annette, how do you feel about that?
Well, I worked for the Department of Labor, so my title officially was investigator. I can tell you that I think that there was definitely some discrimination that occurred within my office. I'm not one to typically sound the horn on that, and it was there for sure. I don't know that we were ever referred to as female or male investigators. I know my friends that are lawyers could probably speak more to that. My own personal experience is that because I was not actually a practicing lawyer for the government, I was an investigator. I never really heard that. I never really heard that term as referring to investigator, but I can tell you that there was, yeah, I mean, it was there. I mean, for sure. Not only with when I would go into offices where I would do, ERISA investigations, sort of the okay, sweetheart, just the, you know what I'm talking about. Just okay, sweetie, okay, honey, let me get that for you. But then also within my own department, it was evident to me with who got promotions. So that's the way that I felt it versus just the nomenclature around me being a female. I mean, I felt it. So, and again, I'm not one usually to be hypersensitive to that, but it's almost like when it's really hitting you in the face a lot, you can't ignore it anymore, right? I mean, it really was there. So,
Myra, how's your experience? Do your clients refer to you as that? Is that a language or a type of language that's utilized in your office?
No, I mean, similar to Annette, I don't think it's ever said. I think it's always just there. It doesn't actually bother me. I think there's also another layer on top. There's woman lawyer, Black woman lawyer. There's all of it is all right there. It doesn't bother me, and the reason why is probably goes back to one of your previous questions about the strong women that we know. All of those things are my strength. All of those come to the table, my sense of identity. And so I bring those to help me unite with my clients, and I bring those for the people who maybe don't have the same identity as me. I still bring it to the table as part of my pillars, as part of my strength, all the ways that I choose to identify with my own ethnic background, race background, and of course, gender background. And so I think it is there, especially when you're just in a room that is predominantly not me. It's just there. No one really has to say it, but it's not something I really shy away from. I'm more of like, yeah, that's right. How are you? That's me, and I'm also bilingual. I speak English and Spanish. And so my clients, I think, also benefit from that. I guess the stereotypes people may bring to the table of what they think you're supposed to be. And then you just show up as you are, because kind of going back to what I was saying before, I'm sorry, no, I'm jumping a little bit, but you are who you are. And how people want to define you on some level, that's their decision, it's their choice. I don't take it personally unless it becomes disrespectful. So the side comments, as Annette was saying, of sweetie, honey, you do have to sometimes correct people so that they understand your boundaries. And that's just an important part of practice, just in life. It's okay to call me this, it's not okay to call me that. People get used to it and they adjust themselves, because when you are high quality, they're not going to sacrifice sacrifice your services for the sake of their nonchalant comfort and wanting to do this or do that. You can be friendly without being someone's friend. So we can have a friendly conversation, but just understand those boundaries. And beyond that, I have no problem being a female attorney or an attorney or a Black female attorney. However you want to look at me, I am all of those things, and I'm proud of all of them equally.
Linnette?
I feel similar to Myra. I don't have a problem in being a female attorney or just an attorney. I've been on my own for so long that I'm just an attorney. I mean, my clients, most of them just speak Spanish. So to them, I am abogada Linnette, which is abogada is the female attorney. But Other than that, I don't feel like me being a female has been something that's come into play. I feel like I'm a strong presence. I'm a strong personality. So I've never had an issue with feeling lesser than, or that somebody thinks I'm lesser than because I'm a female. So I'm me, and I'm strong. And like Myra said, this is who I am, and take me or leave me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's definitely, in my experience is weird. I've definitely had people ask me if I'm the lawyer. On social media, I've had people say they like me better with my hair straight. I've had people say a bunch of different things, and people will say a lot of things. That's just the nature of being a person, right? Everyone has their own opinion. It's just like, that's what comes with being a human being. I don't know if it's an issue that I have, or like the when I think about, being categorized as a woman lawyer, I always think of like this hyphenated lawyer. Like, why can't I just be a lawyer? Because that's what I am. Obviously, I do feel like my personal experiences enriches my cases, because I'm a former actress with a film degree who represents artists and creatives. So there are not a lot of lawyers like me in New York City. So my background definitely is something that assists me and aids me in understanding the nuances of my clients' careers. But in the professional setting, when I'm at the City Bar Association, or I'm at different professional organizations or different panels, there's always that introduction of, female attorney or minority attorney. And I just sometimes don't feel like it's necessary. Maybe in certain spaces it is necessary, because in certain spaces it is important to be an activist, especially for lack of representation. But I feel like in other settings, it's not really appropriate. We're all attorneys, regardless of the way I look or I don't look. And that's why I wanted to kind of bring this up, because we all have different professional experiences, and how a person reacts to the title women lawyer or woman attorney or female attorney is different. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just questioning why we're using it. Are we using it because we just want to qualify the person as a descriptor? But you don't need to qualify attorneys. We're all attorneys, right? That's the reason why I question the use of it. If it's more for the benefit of the other person, instead of creating a standard language that really applies to all attorneys. But because there are implicit biases, I'm sure everyone sees that in their practices and in their careers. I think it's really just important to at least have the discussion. I mean, like I said, or like Myra said, and like Linnette said, it's not necessarily a bad thing or a negative terminology to use with attorneys. I just question why it's being used. That's all.
I think that's a fair question, for sure. And it can tell you something about the person who's using it. So if nothing else, even if you disagree with them using it, they've chosen to use it, and it can tell you, okay, this is how you see me. This is what you're able to see of me. So you at least understand where they're coming from, and it maybe is not the most appropriate place, or maybe it's a very immature place for them to come from, but it tells you a lot about what their mindset may be. And you can approach the conversation with that understanding of, I understand whatever you hear, you're hearing from the lens of female, race, whatever, and then attorney. Mm-hmm. And that may actually end up working against them in the end. It actually almost always does.
And that's exactly how I analyze the use of those words. I really look at it as a measure of the person, not right. really what it reflects on me. But I think it's interesting.
I was just going to say, I think as I was sitting here marinating, kind of thinking about what you were saying, I think that there's such a discussion right now going on, especially with very large law firms, regarding their representation with partners, like who is becoming a partner now in these large law firms. I think maybe, I don't know, you can't speak to what a person's intentions are or their heart is when they're saying something. I could also see the opposite, which is saying, no, look, we are genuinely trying to be inclusive, and our new class of partners in our partnership are female lawyers, women of color, men of, so I could see it that way too, as in they're trying, it can be a bit of a minefield, because you really don't know what someone's intentions are, whether or not they mean it to be diminutive, like a female lawyer, oh, it's just a female lawyer, right? Or whether or not they mean it like, no, this is a female lawyer, like we are being more inclusive than we have in the past.
And also what I have found is that I think at this stage in the game, many people will make the assumption that if you are a woman, or especially a woman of color, or whatever your background is, and you've made it this far, you must be really good. Because how else will you have made it this far when you haven't necessarily, you've had all these barriers that people presume are there in front of you, and you've managed to overcome them? You might actually be better at what you do than somebody else. So really, I agree with Linnette that if you don't know the intention of how someone is using those terms, you don't know if they're coming from a place of trying to use it in a derogatory way or put you down, or if they're coming from a perspective of strength of, hey, this woman she's here. I mean, the fact that she's here in and of itself says something, because you can guess that it may not have been the same sort of journey if she had been a man, or if she had been, perhaps not of color, whatever, but it maybe have been a more difficult journey, and she's managed to be here and she's killing it.
Right.
Yeah. So I agree that you don't really know the perspective of the person saying it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think that, the landscape that we have in our country right now, politically, socially, it can be a bit of a minefield. And I think a lot of people are trying to navigate that genuinely. And so I kind of feel like if everyone on all sides shows grace as we as a country move through this whole process, that it can it can facilitate what the end goal really is. Anyway, I always try not to assume what someone's intentions are, because I don't know what they are. I know people sometimes don't know what my intentions are.
Right.
I'm sure that I've done things that people assumed I meant something totally different than I meant. Yeah.
I think it also interestingly kind of strings back into something that Linnette had said earlier, which is just knowing how to define your own success. What does that mean? And actually, literally, what does that look like? What does a successful person look like? And if you can accept that you might be the mold for that, and that whatever it is that you are doing or however you look is fine, then again, kind of going back to what other people think of you is that's their business. And so long as they don't cross some of the boundaries with you professionally or personally, then you can continue to move within your own space, working towards your own definition of success, and being confident and comfortable and professional and successful by your own definition as you move forward. And your clients will pick up on it. People read you. I mean, they'll read if you're comfortable in your own skin, if you're comfortable in the space that you're working in. And if you can go forward, regardless of how other people are attacking you, whether it's gender or race-based, and still just be focused on what it is that you're there to do, your clients normally will pick up on that, and they respect that and appreciate it.
Because their end goal is a positive result with their attorney, regardless of the qualifiers.
Yeah, and they've probably experienced it too in their own lives. Right. So they understand.
Linnette, any final words on this topic before we move into the final question?
No, I think everybody had really great comments, and I agree with all of you. And I think we just have to be true to ourselves and know that we are successful, and we are lawyers, and we are also female.
Okay.
Which is a great thing to be, in my opinion.
It's an amazing thing to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the last question of the day, why did you become a lawyer?
Who wants to start?
I'll go first. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer because I wanted to control the creative aspects of filmmaking. now I know I want to continue to be a lawyer because I want to continue to make an impact on the artistic and creative landscape in the US. I want international artists to continue to mold and shift and modify what art is. Art to me is as inclusive as it gets, and it has no borders and no boundaries for me. So my mission in life is to support artists, international artists at every stage in their career in their dialogue with art.
I wanted to be a lawyer because I wanted to tell stories. And I realized I was actually pre-med in undergrad. I did biology and Spanish. And I quickly realized that I was more interested in people's stories of why they were in the hospital than I was their vitals. And so I was really more interested in giving voice to people. In law school, I had an interest in environmental justice, people who are living in impoverished areas who happen to be in literally the worst environments, Superfund sites nearby, and also did human rights work during the summers. So I've always been interested in working with marginalized communities who are essentially are voiceless and entirely misunderstood most of the time. They're the ones that you don't see on television. You're never going to see advertised. They are completely invisible, and yet they're there. They're part of our communities. And so I wanted to work with people so that I could provide a voice for them and tell their stories in a way that would be impactful in their lives, which is the reason why I continue practicing. I feel free to stop anytime it's not appropriate for me anymore, but right now I'm loving it. And I feel very fulfilled in what I'm doing because I am able to give voice to people who otherwise really would not ever have their stories heard. So that's the reason why I started, and it's the reason why I'm still in it.
Linnette?
So much like Myra, when I first went to college, I thought I was going to be a dentist, and
I didn't know that.
Quickly, that quickly became obvious that that was not going to happen. And I like to the same thing. I like to write. I like to tell stories. I like to hear people's stories. I always knew I didn't want to be a contract attorney or somebody that was going to sit there with business mergers. I wanted to do the area of law that would impact people's lives. Originally, I thought it was going to be family law. But then when I got my first law clerk position in law school, it was at an immigration law firm. And I didn't even have any idea that this could be a whole career. I thought it was just something you might take a case, but I didn't know it was going to be a whole career. And I thought, I speak Spanish. I can use my bilingual, just being bilingual, and I can use this to help people. And I like organizing facts to make a story. So I think that's why I wanted to go into the area of law that I did go into, because I wanted to help people and organize their stories into a way that can benefit them.
So Annette, how did you go to law school after a film degree and a theater degree?
You guys are all so noble. I wanted to be an actress. That's the truth. I
Me
went
too.
to school for theater and film, and I thought I would someday, hit the boards and be on Broadway. I did professional comedy for a while. And after doing all of that and realizing I didn't really want to live on ramen noodles for my whole life, my mother, again, sort of stepped in, and she encouraged, pushed, I'm not sure. She's like, why don't you go ahead and get a law degree to have something to fall back on? My undergraduate was in political science and international relations. I had 2 degrees. I've always been very politically motivated and minded, and I got debate scholarships, and I was an assistant debate coach for the college, and this was just kind of my jam. I talk a lot. So law didn't seem too far of a stretch. I enjoyed law school because it was super challenging. I kind of have gamification regarding everything I do in my life. I'm very competitive. So I liked law school for that aspect. And then, so that's the reason that I went. And the whole idea was like, well, I'll have something to fall back on. But how that always goes, you never really end up doing what you love. But now what's kind of cool about it is that I get to do two things now. The first thing is now with my digital marketing company, I get to support every single kind of cool lawyer that's out there that's helping other people. So I get to help people do family law, immigration, business law, right? Criminal law. Like I get to help these people. And I love that. I love that I get to be a little part in that story that I am, you know, maybe it's just in my own mind, but I think I'm helping people because I'm helping the lawyers get their name out to get people for services. And then also I am able to do what I love, which is, well, not now because of COVID, but I get to do theater and things like that now. But the reason I originally went to law school was because I was a failed professional comedian.
That's a great title for a book. The reason why I went to law school is because I was a failed professional comedian.
If you look at, I write a weekly column in Above the Law, and I also write for Attorney at Work. And if you look at my bio, it says that I did comedy and then I went to law school, which, let's be honest, it's about the same thing, right? So, you know, you're just you know, I thought I would do trial work, so it was just entertaining a smaller audience a bit. So, but it was just not in the cards for me to do all of that. So I will let those who are much smarter and much more talented than me represent people legally, and then I can do my small little part to now actually help them, which I find much more invigorating and exciting, actually.
Everyone has been so amazing today. We've been here for actually a little bit over an hour, and we've talked about such great things. Everyone has dropped little nuggets and gems of knowledge. We've got to hear about everyone's experiences. So I'm just going to go around and everybody can drop their emails or their social media handles so that whoever's watching can get in contact with you. So if you're watching me, you know that I'm Elektra Yao. You can follow me at Yao Law Group. TikTok, that's where I hang out the most, doing videos. And I hope to continue to see you guys for the rest of the Women's History Month series. On Monday, it's International Women's Day, and we're going to talk to women from all over the world about their experiences about being women. So, Annette, why don't you give us Lawquill's website and your email address so that those who are watching can get in contact with you?
It's super easy. It's lawquill.com, LAWQUILL, lawquill, all one word.com. And then my email's Annette@lawquill.com.
Myra?
Honestly, because of the type of work I do, there's no need to actually reach back out to me for follow-up. The public defender. So if you end up needing our services, you'll meet us in the right time.
Linnette?
So my Facebook page is Law Offices of Linnette Tano Clark, and my Instagram is Attorney Linnette Tano Clark, and my email is lmc@tanoclark.com.
Thank you so much, guys. I really, really love this discussion, loved everything that you had to share. And I hope that you guys can watch the next series on Monday and next Friday when we talk to international women on International Women's Day and women artists on next Friday. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you all for watching and participating.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.